There are many words you can use to describe Concord. Bland, disengaging, boring. But amongst all of the negative yet truthful adjectives I can throw into this script, I don't think I can call it disappointing. Because in order to be disappointing, you have to have at the very least start out as an exciting prospect. There needs to be buzz, hype, a fizz, some anticipation. When the trailer came out, I asked, who is this game for? When the first beta week opened up, I wondered if maybe this game was not being shown in the best possible light, and the week 2 content maybe, just maybe, could save this game. 1 week later though, there is no more questions of what if or wondering of what could have been. Instead, I find myself reflecting, how did it go so wrong? I'm going to start out by quickly saying I strongly do not recommend buying Concord when it releases on August the 23rd. Despite my small glimmer of optimism at the end of my first video, which I will link in the description below, I am firmly of the belief that this game is beyond saving, and Sony have massively misunderstood what gamers want. The hero shooter space is incredibly saturated with many strong titles that have either been around for a long time or at least offer an engaging gameplay loop, and some of these options don't even cost you a single dime. A $40 price tag for a title like this demands quality, engaging gameplay, fun characters, memorable moments. Instead, what we got is the most average, unimpressive game I have played in a long time. The fact that I could even form that opinion is an achievement in itself, because it involves me actually playing the game, which surprisingly turned out to be a lot harder than I expected. With an all-time player count of less than 2,400 players on Steam at the time of writing, without crossplay, queue times would have been an absolute joke. Now, we don't have numbers for PlayStation. I assume the player count might be a bit better there, but I doubt they were amazing. Oh, and by the way, if you are playing on PC, you will need a PlayStation account. So if by some miracle you're planning on playing this game, please be aware that if you're getting it on PC, you must have a PlayStation account. But anyway, past the lack of players, when I did find a game, my experience was awful. Every single game I played had these network icons on the corner telling me that I was suffering bad net or packet loss, despite me on the scoreboard having those 3 bars all full and green. I found myself lagging, rubber banding, shots not registering, and even struggling to run out of the spawn. Look at this footage here. I'm just trying to walk forward and I'm having a terrible time. The right side of my screen is lit up like a Christmas tree, yet the scoreboard says my network is great. There was no other way to get any further info on network performance in Concord. There's no measurement for latency. You only get those 3 bars on the scoreboard and the icons on the right. That's all you get. So it was very frustrating. I started out by streaming this game on Twitch, which you can find a link to in the description, but the experience was so bad, yet I was optimistic. I thought maybe my home internet isn't capable of streaming the game and playing it at the same time online. Bit of a long shot, but okay, maybe I'll play it off stream to give it a fair chance. Nope, there was no improvement. I thought, okay, maybe my internet is just awful in general, but nope. I was able to stream 4K movies. I could play other online games completely fine. No one else in my household was having any issues. I thought, okay, I'm really clutching at straws here, but maybe there's some firewall issue on my PC which is causing me to have bad net in Concord and Concord only. No, that wasn't it, because I booted the game up on PlayStation 5 and still had plenty of issues there. But for whatever reasons, I really struggled, and there were plenty of times where I just cracked it and just went a tank character so I could still somewhat contribute to the team when my shots just were not hitting and I was really struggling to have a good time at all. Seriously, this was really frustrating to play, and especially as this is supposed to be Sony's next big thing. I'm not going to talk about lore or story. Like I said in my first video, there were some cutscenes, I couldn't care about it, and judging by the player counts, I doubt anybody else cares. So instead, I'm just going to go straight to the gameplay because that is where the major critical problems are, and I honestly don't think it's a simple patch or a content update that can fix it. Now, I, like many other people, thought this game was an Overwatch clone. In truth, I think it plays more like a poor version of Destiny's PvP mode, and this comes down to a mismatch with two critical elements: the game modes and the Freegunners. Let's start with the Freegunners. I very quickly became bored of a large majority of these characters and their abilities. The 16 options that we could play as all felt like poorly paid impersonators. I don't really think any of them had a distinct and unique feel. I don't think their weapons all handled that differently from each other, and I certainly didn't feel I wanted to learn anything more about their backstories, personalities, or anything of the sort. Each character has a primary weapon, some have a secondary weapon. Each character has two abilities, and some characters have the ability to dodge alongside a dodge trait. For example, Lennox, the pistol-wielding discount Guardians of the Galaxy lookalike, has a dodge trait in which he reloads his weapon during the dodge sequence. There are some passive abilities and stupid crew bonuses which I don't fully understand, but we'll try to explain later. There are no ultimate abilities that you need to charge up or time with other characters, so for me that really does not encourage team synergy or any team play. I didn't feel many of the abilities were interesting or even that fun to play with. I found many of the primary weapons all just acted as weak airsoft guns firing BB pellets, and honestly it all just felt pretty samey to me. I quickly decided that I had the most fun playing as Lennox because he had decent damage output alongside a self-healing ability. The self-healing ability was particularly useful because there was often very little team play, and I needed to get myself out of some sticky situations with little or no assistance from my teammates. That's not because they were bad teammates, that's just because the heroes and modes are not encouraging the player to link up and work together, even when it strategically is the best decision. I also played a fair bit of Amari, who is a tank with a minigun, and that shield was a great second choice for me, because when I was struggling to move or hit shots thanks to the awful network issues, I thought, well, at least I can soak up some damage. I mingled with some of the other characters, especially in the rivalry modes, but honestly they were all fairly uninspiring and barely memorable. I could only really name Lennox. I actually had to Google who the tank was that I was playing with while I was writing this script. I want to very quickly touch on the crew building feature. Firstly, this was so poorly explained and I still don't fully understand it, but basically you pick a roster to take with you into games, and depending on the roster you pick, you earn bonus buffs like extra range or quicker dodge times. So if you are playing as the sniper character Widowmaker, Vale, then you might want to build a character with a better range bonus. I briefly experimented with it. I had no clue how much benefit this was giving to me in game. The default crew had a crew bonus of 6, whereas the one I built specifically for Lennox, or at least I thought it would help him, has a score of 2. If you're wondering what the 6 and the 2 mean and what that represents, I couldn't tell you. I honestly have no idea. The system is so poorly explained, required a Reddit thread in order to get my head around, and I stopped caring because I couldn't understand how this was actually benefiting me. I'm sure someone watching this video might have a very strong understanding of how this works and how best to use it. And please, in the comments section, let me know how on earth this works, but you cannot deny that this is so poorly explained and doesn't give the player enough feedback as to if their system is effective or if they need to edit their crew. Now we come to the game modes, and for me, this was the most disappointing part of the second week of the beta. Last week, I said that maybe the modes we were presented with didn't paint Concord in the best light, and some different modes might help the game. Unfortunately, after having played the second week, I do not believe these modes create an engaging gameplay experience. Firstly, on the modes we've already played, the brawl modes, takedown, and trophy hunt, which are essentially team deathmatch and kill confirmed, were boring, mindless, running around, shooting people with no objective to attack or defend. Let me explain how these games went. If your team ran around like a chicken with its head cut off, each on a solo expedition around one of the boring, bland maps, which honestly all felt the same but just with a different color of paint, then your team will lose. Your best bet is to have everyone stick together and either A, run around like a pack of wolves, or B, just sit in one spot of the map and let the other team feed in one by one. That is literally how 100% of my games played out, and each one was more boring than the last. This got extremely boring, extremely quickly, and didn't capture my interests. I spoke about the two rivalry modes, Cargo Run and Clash Point, in my previous video. They are round-based, no respawn modes. They're supposed to encourage both team play as well as you being able to be proficient with a wide range of Freegunners, because the game will force you to change to a different one upon winning a round. Honestly, these two modes were both pretty boring, because after one extremely quick team fight, the round was over. The objective mattered very little in my experience. It honestly just acted as a location for where this fight is going to take place, and it was incredibly lackluster. During my time in both weeks of the beta, I played these two modes the least. But here comes the big disappointment. The takeover modes, area control and signal hunt. These are new for the open beta. We haven't played these before. So I thought area control was going to be like the classic hero shooter modes, where one team attacks a zone or maybe two zones on a map while the other defends, and different parts of the map open up as the attacking team takes the objectives. Oh boy, was I wrong. Nope. Area control is literally domination. 3 flags, capture and hold the objectives, and that's it. So a couple things to note. Firstly, you only get points when you hold 2 flags. So if you're only holding 1 flag, you aren't earning any points. That's not a criticism, that's just something that took me a game or two to notice. My criticism is that this game played out terribly. Normally in domination, you have one team get objective A, the other gets objective C because they're in their spawn, and you're both kind of fighting for neutral B. Sometimes the spawn flips where, you know, the other team will get A, so you get their C, but that didn't happen here. Instead, we were running around in circles, capturing points mindlessly, and until we ran into the enemy team, there's a team fight, and hopefully you win that fight, and with it the game. This doesn't work, and I found it difficult to run off by myself and maybe steal an objective without running into the other team and getting steamrolled. The best path to victory was to run in a pack around the map, and it was just incredibly boring.
But I don't think this is the answer. I don't think a domination game mode is what makes the most sense for me. I think I really want to see, at the risk of just copying Overwatch, I think that makes a lot more sense to me. I don't know, I'm not sure. You know, like a push the cart mode or whatnot, but maybe the abilities don't allow for that.
Signal Hunt was the best mode by far. It's a basic King of the Hill mode with one objective that moves around the map. This made a lot more sense, and it played the best. I have no idea why this mode wasn't introduced until basically the last day of the beta. It should have been there from the start because it actually worked really well. I honestly think if I was to play Concord, this would be the mode I'd play the most. It has a solo, clear objective. There's team play because everyone's going to the same spot, and there's respawns unlike the rivalry modes. There's constant time for the game to evolve over time. People can strategize and link up, and yes, I'm painting a very optimistic picture of how this game can play out, but there was an opportunity for that to happen, and there were signs of it, and it was a little bit fun, I'm not gonna lie. But that was the only mode that worked, and we only got a day to play it. Now, in saying that, yes, it was, you know, a fun mode, but I'm not going to spend $40 on a game just to play this one mode. Now, despite me saying that this was the best mode and it actually was a bit of fun sometimes, it still does get fairly repetitive, and I couldn't see this lasting that long. I will say with the objective modes, particularly area control, I think the UI needs to be improved because the capture points were not really that visible on my screen. And I also think because you get steamrolled when you aren't running around with your team, maybe they should make the minimap wider so I can see where my team is on that minimap so I know where to link up with them. But honestly, the UI in general, I thought could do with some touch-ups. For some reason, my Lennox cosmetic skin became a separate Freegunner on the Freegunner page. I don't know how to fix this. The scoreboard doesn't sort from best to worst performing players. It really should. I don't understand why it doesn't do this. And seriously, I know I went on about it before, but some accurate networking feedback is required. I concluded my last video with an acknowledgement that I was fairly negative, but I had a slight sense of optimism, or maybe it was delusion, that this game could get better. Despite the crushing of hope I had only taking place over the course of a week, it feels so long ago, almost like a distant fantasy that I had any hopes for this game. Some people are calling this game dead on arrival. I would like to remind you that this game hasn't even arrived yet. It doesn't release until August, the end of August, mind you, and it's still in beta. Someone on my stream asked me what I'd like to see from this game a year from now, and I went on talking about events in Overwatch like Junkenstein's Revenge, because I think that's a good example of keeping players engaged over a period of time, having these, interesting events, more content and all that sort of stuff. But the truth is, I don't think many people are going to play this, and I can't see this game succeeding. I don't know if it will even be supported within a year. I just think there are so many better options out there, which have been around in the market for a long time, a very crowded, saturated market, mind you, and some of those offerings are free. I can't see myself shelling out $40 for this game. There was nothing mighty or supersonic about this game, as the title suggests. There was nothing memorable or noteworthy. And the only person I can see shelling out $40 for this game, or if you're like me in Australia, $60, is a die-hard Sony fan who doesn't have anything else to play. They don't want to play a free-to-play hero shooter, or even Destiny 2, which has plenty much more to offer, as well as its own PvP mode, which I feel was a better quality than what we got in this game. That's the only person I can see playing this. Look, I love my Sony exclusive single-player experience games, like your Ghost of Tsushima, Horizon Forbidden West, your God of Wars, but those all have something unique about them that you can't quite get in other games. And even if you can get those experiences somewhere else, these games do it at such a high standard that it's worth that price tag. It's the reason why PlayStation used those games to help sell consoles. I cannot see Concord being a console seller, or even a retainer for that matter. As you play your last game of Concord, it doesn't matter if the end screen says victory or defeat. Because truth be told, we're all winners, because we got to play this game without shelling a dollar. Thank God. I'm not going to sit here and say, maybe the real Concord is the friends we made along the way, because not a single person in my 2 weeks of playing joined the game voice channel. So I literally didn't talk to anybody. I didn't make a single friend. But I think we can pat ourselves on the back as a community, or at least the PC community, for rejecting this game. I would hope Sony have realized that maybe a Last of Us Factions multiplayer game would have been a better call. It's got a world which a lot of people are familiar with and appreciate. It's got a game mode which was actually very good when it first came out in Last of Us. It just didn't have a lot of demand. So maybe developing it as a standalone experience with a few more features might not just get the Last of Us community over, but it also might get people who just generally enjoy multiplayer games to come over and give it a try. Who knows? Maybe you could even time the release of that game with the release of Last of Us Season 2, the HBO TV show, because Fallout 76 is receiving a lot of players coming in from watching the TV show. Maybe Sony, just maybe, that would have been the better call. Look, if you enjoyed Concord, then more power to you. That's the beauty about games. We can all have our own opinion. We can respect that opinion. And what might be fun for you might not be fun for the next person. And that's completely and totally fine. But I think the majority of us expected a lot more, and it doesn't look like Concord is going to deliver. Concord releases on August 23rd for PlayStation 5 and PC. Look, who knows? Maybe the game will receive some really positive change. Maybe it will go free to play. Maybe I will pick it up and do another video. Probably not, if I'm being honest. Honestly, in my opinion, I believe that Concord has crashed and burned before it has even taken off from the ground. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss more videos similar to this one. Also, don't forget to leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Concord. Did you enjoy it? Did you have a similar experience to what I had? I'd love to get your thoughts on it. Also, the music you're listening to was very graciously written and produced by an artist called Hated Names. Please go down in the description below for a link to his Spotify. He's got a very unique style, which I think a lot of you folks might like, so please go and support him, and I'm very grateful that he made this music for me, which you'll hear throughout more of my videos and short form videos in the future. As always, thank you very much for watching. Lancy out.